welcome to my live stream. I will be working on Notefication today. Again, that's that app that lets you, that will hopefully let you add a note and then kind of pin it to your lock screen. I'm not sure if that's actually legal by Apple, but I figured it'd be a good thing to put out there and a good thing to work on. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do today. We have 3 main tasks that I want to get done today. I want to finish developing the detail view, fix issue number 2 on GitHub, which is when in dark mode the background of the note does not look good, the gradient. I want to actually add in a toggle. Those are the 3 things that I want to work on today. The toggle won't work and won't show notifications right now, but actually adding the toggle and updating that in Xcode is what we're going to do for this. So let's start with developing the detail view, which is going to be in Xcode. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like right now, we're going to go ahead and switch and see on my iPad what it looks like, which is a bit different than what it looks like on the iPhone, but that's okay. It's just to give you an idea of what it actually looks like. So let's do that switch. There we go. So here's what it looks like currently on the iPad. You have hold on, and I can outline what we're looking at. So here's the note list, and then here's the detail on the right-hand side. So basically, we're gonna update the note list a bit update the note detail first. So we have the date added. We're gonna put in the date that it was last modified, probably above where it's added. And then on top of that, we'll also put in the toggle in here as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Mouse, did you die? It might have. 1 second, guys. Gotta plug. My mouse decided it was gonna die, I think. Ha, there we go. Okay, now we're back. Ooh, sorry. I see I have 2 viewers, so hi, welcome. So like I said, we're gonna work on that detail view, which we're already in, on the right-hand side. The first thing we're gonna do though is see exactly what information we're actually grabbing from there. So that's actually can easily be seen from our Xcode, our core data model sheet here. You have the added date, the body, which is what we're using for that text above the note, the UUID, just to make things a little bit easier when sorting, is archived, is notified, and modified date. So what we should do here is in the list, we're basically going to do the same HStack, but we're going to duplicate it here. And we're going to say note dot modified date dot description. So dot description is just going to give us the actual raw date, which we're going to end up having to do an extension for to actually get into something we could read humanly. Cool. So the next thing is we're also going to add in a list style here so that it's grouped. Dot list style. I think this is right. Maybe it's a dot. Let me actually Google that to make sure I'm putting in the right one. So we're going to do SwiftUI list styles. So the one I'm looking for is actually the one that gets it grouped kind of so that there's sections with like so there's actually sections in the list. So let's see, yeah, grouped list style is what I'm looking for. It's grouped list style. to go ahead and run and build that and run it. And we'll switch over here and see what happens. Nothing is what happens. No, I just got to select the note first. Cool. Which is exactly what I wanted, so that it would look a little bit more purpose and put it in that nice rounded corner row instead of it just being straight across. So now to go back here, and this should say date last modified. And then we will do so this is actually going to go into a section in here so that we can actually put actually that's not what we want to do. We want to do the toggle in the top. So we're going to actually align the note. So what I'm thinking about doing is we are going to align where the note is. We are going to align where the note detail and all that kind of stuff is to at least this note part right here, which is the note body. We're going to align that to the left. And then we're going to put the toggle and then the button to actually archive it. So let's go ahead and add that. So to align the VStack, we gotta go in here, type in alignment. Wow, I gotta be able to spell, so it works. Dot leading. So what we're saying here in the VStack is we're going to align whatever's in here, and then the dot leading means we're going to align it to the leading side of the device. Because I'm in America, that means we're going to align it left. Go ahead and close that guy. Then, so that should move the text to the left side of this, over to the left side, which is great. Oh, apparently my sound is quiet. Let me see if I can bump it up. Is that better? Hopefully that's better. Sorry, 1 second. I'm hoping that fixed it. Let's see. I had Dragon Dust in the Twitch chat tell me my sound was quiet, so hopefully that's fixed it. I'm also trying to talk a bit louder. Okay. So like I said, I applied the dot leading to move it to the left-hand side of the screen, and it's the left-hand side because that's where the device is located. Awesome, and it is better. Great. Thanks so much for letting me know. So now we're gonna put this also in a H stack. That way the text in the button and the toggle are all in the same plane here. So H stack. Cool. So that moved it to the left. Now we're going to add in a toggle. What I'm actually doing here is marking. And what's really cool when you mark something in Xcode is when you go up here where it says P body, that just states where you are actually in the code itself, in your file itself. So if you click here though, you get an outline of everything that's been declared. So because I did a mark on toggle, you can actually see and jump directly to that spot. So if I was to actually put a mark down here, mark, example, I'll just write example, and I scroll all the way up here. And then when I click example, it'll just take me to that spot. So it makes it a little bit easier to navigate, especially once you start getting large bodies of code. Cool. And I'm also going to do that for the button. Again, just to know that it's there. Cool. So we're going to add in a toggle. And so how the toggle is going to work is it's going to say whether or not it's on, which needs a binding boolean. So that's going to need some kind of state property inside our note detail for now, so that it can just toggle on and off. And then the label is going to be what the toggle is named, basically. Dragon Dust asked what I'm building. I am building a app called, I'm giving it the name of Notefication. Hopefully what this will allow me to do is, it's kind of a very basic note-taking app. If we go over here, you can kind of see it. The left-hand side, where it says note on this side that I'm moving up and down, is going to be simulate basically the home screen. So that's why the gradient's there, is so if it's on an iPhone device or on here, when it's on it'll look like it's on the lock screen, so that you can pin notes to the lock screen itself. So that's the goal, is to build like a note-taking app that you can keep on the front, that you can always keep a note pinned to the front of the device. I kind of came up with, I'm sure this type of app exists, or one has attempted to exist. I kind of came up with it the last time I was traveling, because I didn't know what gate to go to in the airports. So so it would be a lot more useful for it to have so for me to just pick up my phone and there's a notification for what I needed, and for whatever information I needed at that point. Cool. Thanks for asking. Cool. So let's keep going on the toggle now. So like I said, it needs a binding boolean. It needs a state variable. So we're going to go ahead and add in that state. Is notified. It's going to be a boolean. And we're going to go ahead and set it to be false right off the bat. By doing the state, we've assigned the property wrapper state to the is notified. This gives it the binding. This makes it fall under the binding protocol that's needed for this, for the is on and the toggle that's given in SwiftUI. And when you're passing it a binding variable, it does need that $. And we're going to give it a label. Cool. So that should be what's needed. And we'll go ahead and build it and see how that looks now. Okay, so it looks a little bit rough. Basically, because what's happening here is the note, since it's so small, it's getting all the way to the left, and then notify is all the way to the right, which could definitely look better. And then the note, so the note that's just based on the side, that frame itself is based on the body of the note. So I could actually give a different note here. Why is my keyboard not on? There we go. I'm going to type in longer note text. Sorry about that noise if you can hear it. Just typing in a bunch of words to make it longer. And so when we click on that, you'll see, or we'll find out that my actual app is more buggy than I thought it was, which is also great. We'll just rebuild that. There we go. The text itself is a bit longer now. You can see that going between note or not, because like I said, it's a little bit buggy. But note would take up the space of longer, whereas whenever I have that longer string, now it's a little bit more off to the right. We can fix that by actually assigning a width to that to the text field, and then it will just it'll just automatically go to the next line if it needs to. All right, so now going back to coding, and I should make a note of the fact that it is not working. And I'll add that to the GitHub actually instead of here. Here it is. Okay, under issues, new issue, title, navigation between notes does not work. Pro 9.7, the navigation. I know it's great watching someone put in a bug, but then I know where it is. And I kind of keep all of, so as I'm doing this and as more bugs come up, I'll start adding them to GitHub as they are, and then this is what I pull from to work on the next live stream. This is a public repo, so if you want to see what I've worked on before, you can actually go to my GitHub, Megan J. Wilson, and then under notification, it's actually been pretty up to date with what I've done. And then I will only do one commit at the end of the live stream. That way you can keep up with the dates as well. Cool. So that's done. That's added. Let's still work on only the detail view, just because that is something that I want to get done today. Cool, and I spelled notify wrong. All right, so then we have a button, action, my standard button, if I don't have a function yet, is always do something, just so that I can just go back and change what it does. So when you make a button in SwiftUI, you have to have an action associated with the button. So this is basically what I do. So when you push the button, what happens? Right now, it just says do something. And then we'll just say archive as the text. And then it should be happy again. Cool. I'm probably not going to be happy with this, and we'll see how it goes. Go again. And if we click on here, so we'll have the archive button and then the toggle button. And we can see if we go back to Xcode in the bottom right here, when I tap on archive, it's actually doing something. So that archive is coming every time I'm hitting do something. I'll clear it out real quick. That way you can see, and I'll hit archive again. Cool. So the button itself is working. Awesome. Now it's not really doing anything. It's just the button itself is doing something. The button press, it works. Same with the toggle. If we go back where you can see the iPad screen, the toggle itself works. We just don't have anything associated to that toggle. So the next thing we're going to do is make something happen associated with that archive button and that toggle button. So, we'll first tackle the button itself instead of the toggle button. Let's add in down here So once we get outside of the actual view itself, we can start declaring functions that we actually want to use inside that view. So I'm going to say archive note, print archive note. So I'm just going to put in a standby function here. And wow. Okay, forgot the parentheses. My bad. Now what we can do is add this here and say self.archive note. The reason why we have to use self is because we're declaring it inside the action of the bubble. Not the bubble, the action of the button, so that by saying self, we're actually looking for the archive note inside the structure note detail that we're looking for. I see I have another viewer, so hey out there also. Cool. So now what should happen, instead of saying do something, we'll see printed down here, print archive. We'll see down here printed archive note when I tap that button. Great. All right, so that works. So the next thing we're going to do is still finish off this archive note function, what we want to do is actually import core data. So I am storing all the notes on the device inside core data. That way everything's local to the device itself. So we have to import core data here because we need to actually update the object itself. So the note is a note entity, which has all the properties from that we saw here in the data model. So basically we have to perform a fetch request to get the specific note that we're dealing with from the context of this core data. Then we make the change to that object, and then we update that object. So just to make sure I'm going to do this right, I'm going to go back to one of my other repos that I have done this in to make sure that I'm going to get the code right. It's not something I do all the time, so it is something that I do have to go back to sometimes. Sorry, it just takes a little bit navigating there. Nope, it is not in that one. My bad. It is in, I know for sure it'll be in show objects. And then under the settings here. Okay, so in this update show, so I'll break it down here before I bring it over. We assign the ID from the entity, then we do that fetch request I was talking about that only matches that actual ID. Then we say we only want to fetch one. That way we only fetch that one entity we were dealing with. We update the objects, and then we update the show. Then we update the core data model itself. So inside archive note, we are going to say let note ID SUUID. So the reason why it has to be an NSUUID is because that is how we can actually because that's the format that's the type that the predicate needs when we say query, when we query on that one UUID. So we'll say note.id. So you'll notice I use a bunch of exclamation marks here. The reason why is because I don't want to give it a default value. I know that anytime a note is added, it's automatically getting an ID. The reason why I know that is because in the add note view, you can see that I assign it a UUID by default. So I know it won't fail with that exclamation mark if you think. So I'm basically forcing it to always have a note.id. Now, if I don't have a UUID there, then that would cause the app to crash itself. Because I know it has it there, it's okay for me to do it at this point. If you don't know that it's there, then you can give it an optional and then give a default value or do something because the note ID was not there, because the UUID for the ID property is not there. Cool. So next we're going to actually declare that fetch request. And it's going to give us an NSFetch request result. And we're going to say the entity name is a note entity. That entity name, again, comes from the notification.exe data model D. And under entities, so that's the note entity. So that's where that name is coming from over here. Cool. So the next thing we need to do is give the fetch request a predicate. The predicate is basically limiting the predicate is limiting, is saying what are we searching for? If we were searching for a date, are we searching for this range of days? Because we're searching for this one specific note, we're just gonna say it's the predicate is our note ID. Cool. So basically what I did here was I declared that our predicate is, I added an extra quotes when I wasn't supposed to. So what I did here was I said that the predicate, so what we're going to filter our results by, is only going to have the ID, and then %@ is basically saying, is basically code for saying whatever this next variable is or whatever this next value is here. So I said as long as we're only going to grab the note entities that are of this ID, and then we can, and so with those results, then we're going to just say we only want to grab one of them at this point. Cool. So we say the fetch limit is equal to 1. So now we're going to say, so whenever you're really dealing with core data, it likes to do everything in a do catch. That way, if there's an actual error, you can handle that error however you see fit. So test equal. So first we're going to say, hey, try doing this fetch request. That way we don't, if the fetch request is empty, we don't do anything with it. And you might be wondering, where is this context that's coming from? The context itself is coming from a environment variable that I've yet to declare. So let's go ahead and do that. Environment manage managed object context. So just to give a little bit more of like, oh, it's an environment object. So in SwiftUI, there's a bunch of environment variables that are given. So like .manage object context is one in SwiftUI that you can use when you're using core data. It's actually declared here in the scene delegate where it says your context, UI application.share.delegate. So if you've actually used core data in a non-SwiftUI project, you can actually go, this is usually what you put in the app delegate. That way you can share this and get access your core data in different spots of your app. Then it automatically adds the content. It automatically adds to your content view. So where your first view that you're injecting into the app, it automatically adds that environment variable for you called context. So you can actually see in mine, it gets added right here at the top. I usually never change the content view, just because then I know it's always there. That's always the main view that we go into. And then that's where basically everything starts from there. Cool. So we're going to go back into our note detail because that's where we were before. So we've added that content, and I know so we're now getting two errors. We're getting an error and a warning. Error thrown from here is not handled. So basically we haven't put in the catch part of the do catch. So let's go ahead and catch. And for right now, we're just going to print the error. That way, if it does fail for any reason, then it'll get logged down here with why it failed. The warning here is saying, hey, we've never actually used test. Do you want to put it with an underscore instead? That way you can use it. That way this can just be discarded later. We're going to keep it as test because we just haven't done anything with it yet. Cool. So what we're going to do now is actually finish our fetch request. Is actually do this. So we're going to say, so next thing we need to do is actually put this object that it found in the test fetch request. We're going to assign it somewhere for us to update it. So I usually like to call this note update equals test at 0. And then we're going to force it to the type of a NS managed object. Now we can just say note update dot. We want to say set value. And we want to say, how do we set the value? So what do we set the value for? So what is the value that we're going to set? This is going to be the is notify, which is called is notified. And then for key is where we get to say exactly what property are we updating here. So is notified. I was just making sure that I labeled it correctly. Then we'll do it one more time. Is archived. We'll just set it as true for is archived. And I did this all wrong, so sorry for mistyping here. Quotes. Cool. Great. And actually this is just updating the notes, the archive option here, so we're not even going to do that. Awesome. Because there's no reason to update the archive if it's not there. So we're going to update it to true. How do we know if it's true in here? We'll also do let's actually declare a state variable here also. And we're probably going to end up changing this to a toggle type as well. Down here we'll do So basically what we're doing here is we're going to toggle the archive note. So whether it's true or false, or we're going to toggle is archive. So it'll automatically do false or true for us. And we'll do something fancy here with dot foreground color. And we'll say based on is archived, we'll do a ternary operation. So if it's archived, then we're going to say color dot red, or if it's not archived, so if it's not archived, we'll do dot red. If it is archived, we'll do dot green. Cool. So let's go ahead and build that, and then we'll go over and see what's going on the screen. All right, so we'll click here. So it's not archived currently. So if we hit archive, so it's green means archived. Cool. So we've updated that. Well, we made sure the button works. We haven't actually updated it. We haven't said, hey, do the update. We've just set the value. So the next thing we're going to do is actually we're going to update the note entity itself. And then we will also make it to where we check to see if it's archived first. And then we're going to repeat all of this for the toggle. Let me just look up one thing real quick. It's under helpers maybe. I just want to make sure I'm again gonna say the right thing. Don't want to lead y'all off the path of wrongness. That would be it. Oh no. Update. Show. So we update the show with the context. Okay, great. So yeah, that should be it. Yeah, so actually we have been updating archive. So the next thing we're going to do is in here, we are going to so we've already updated it. So the next thing, by doing the set value, it actually updates in there. So what we're going to do is when it's loaded, we are going to say, hey, are we archived or not yet? So what we can do is dot on appear. We can say to do this specific thing. So we can say so we can actually just say self dot is archived equals note dot is archived. And we got to put it in self. Just building it again real quick. Okay, so archive, great. Because again, I have that bug. So now we know it's archived because it's green. We'll restart it. Click on the net. And it did not work. Oh, hey. Navigation did work this time. Archive. Notification go away. What if we launch it again? Okay, so it's not working for some reason on up here. Let's go figure out why. So let's do a print for self.note.is archived. I like print statements. They're just easy. They let me know what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and build that. So it says false. Okay. Let's just note dot. Cause, well, let's see. So all I'm doing on the iPad, I know I'm not going back and forth, is just loading it and making sure and see what's happening in here. So we print it, it's true. Note dart is archived, is true now. And if I do it again, it's false still. Did I not? Trust. Okay. No, that should be all it takes to actually update a core data value. No, go back up. Update show, yeah, okay. We're going to do a context.save. And we're also going to print in here to make sure that it is going to be done correctly. Sorry guys, this is, and I lost everyone except for one. Well, thanks. Here we go. Value for key is archived. There we go. Sorry that was a little bit tough there. But let's see. Nope, it's still false, but I want it to be true. 1 is true. Okay. Aha, I got it this time. It worked. Cool, just to show you guys I'm not crazy and you guys can see what I'm doing. So when I run it, it'll come back, and then when I tap on the note, archive is green. Yes. Small win. All right, so is archive works. Now we're going to duplicate that over to toggle. Cool. let me just respond in the chat here. That way, if everyone else if anyone else comes in, then they can see what I'm working on. Notification. And the link to the repo that I'm working on is here as well. /notification. Cool. And that should, yeah. So in the chat, if I have anyone else watching, if you go to chat, I have the link to the repo that I'm working in right there. Cool. Awesome. Thanks for the follow, Dragon Dust. I appreciate it. Cool. So I can actually delete this. So let's get back to applying this to our notification toggle. That one's going to be a bit different just because it's on a toggle push instead of on an actual button itself. We don't need all these print statements anymore. Oh, we're going to say self.isNotified equals self.note.isNotified. Okay, so we can actually do something a little bit cool inside this toggle. Since it needs a binding boolean, we can actually build a function. We can actually build a function in there using a setter and a getter that says, hey, anytime this value changes, we're going to trigger this function. I know I did again, I just don't want to say the wrong thing. This is something that I have done before, but for a slider function. But it's basically the same thing because it just needed that binding variable. So we'll see that we'll declare a value, a binding, and then a get value, and then a set value. If you've never used computed properties before, they're really nifty. I believe I actually wrote an article about them. Yeah, right here, computed properties in SwiftUI. In Swift. I would definitely highly suggest going back to it. My blog is blog.appsbymw.com. So if you never heard about computed properties, highly suggest going here. And then after you've done that, then this will make a little bit more sense as to why it works the way it does. Cool. So I'm going to get this out of the way, and then we'll get started with the toggle. So what we're going to do is, instead of saying is notified, we're going to put in a curly braces so that we can work inside them. And then inside the curly braces, we're going to say we're not going to put in curly braces. Got ahead of myself. We're going to actually declare that we're doing a binding. And then we're going to do some brackets, some parentheses, and then we say get. So this is going to be the value that he's actually going that it's actually going to read. So this is going to be self dot is notified. And then from here we're going to do comma set, and we're going to say inside set, we're going to say great, cool, wow, my typing is awful live. It'll get better. We're going to say curly brackets, new value in self dot is notified equals new value. And then we can say self dot update is notified. So it shouldn't be a bling. It should just be is notified. Cool. And now it's just upset because there is no update is notified. So we'll make that here. Bunk update is notified. And basically we're going to do the exact same thing here. Let note ID note.id as NSUID. Let fetch request. So we're going to build our fetch request again. I'm basically just going to copy this because again, it's the exact same thing that we had. And we're just going to paste it in. So again, we're doing a fetch request on the note entity that we have inside this note detail. Then we say we only want the one that matches this ID and we only want one of them. Then we go through and we say the set value is going to be is notified instead. Instead of is archived, we're going to say is notified. Cool. And that should toggle it. So we're going to build it again. It'll pop up. My build failed, so let's go see why. What's it upset about? Update is notified. Oh, I spelled notified wrong. Spelling matters in coding. Now, whether it's spelled right or wrong doesn't necessarily matter, but as long as it matches is really what matters. So let's go back to iPad now, to our iPad screen. Cool. Yes, notify me. So now if we build it again. Go here. Yes, it's notified and archived. Cool. Go back down. Ah, sorry. I really need to lock these. Explain Patreon. Cool. So I got the toggle done. I've got the archive done. I need to start updating the last I need to also update the last modified, and then this note detail is pretty much done. Again, there's some tweaking that I need to do that needs to be done a little bit, like the width of the actual text on it. But let's pause for a sec. I want to say thank you for watching. We're going to keep going. There's still 2 more things that I want to get done that aren't done right now. But thanks for watching so far. If you see at the bottom of your window here, there's a Patreon, and then right here it says all proceeds will be given to the behind the scenes charity. Basically the entertainment industry was affected a lot by the COVID-19. So anything you donate to me, whether that's at Patreon, at Buy Me a Coffee, downloading any of the apps that I've made so far, tipping me inside the app, anything that kind of goes to me is actually going to be donated to behind the scenes so that they can help the entertainment industry. So behind the scenes kind of helps entertainment technology professionals if there's like a hardship. So if they ended up being affected by COVID-19 or being affected by the coronavirus, they can go to the behind the scenes foundation or the behind the scenes charity and actually and help them and give them money as needed, all that kind of stuff. Healthcare, anything like that, like they will help the people, they will help whoever applies and gets to it. So anything this month is going to, anything I get this month of March, it will be given to them. Just, trying to help out the fellow people in the entertainment industry. Cool. Awesome. And again, that's patreon.com/appsbymw, or Google the behind the scenes charity and give directly to them also. Cool. So let's keep going with this. Actually, I'm not happy about where notified or archive is anymore. I knew that would happen as I kept doing this. So what we're going to do is actually put it inside the list area. I think I should be able to actually even say, just do this quickly where it says form. Yeah. Cool. Great. Exactly what I thought would happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a button underneath this. And then we'll move the toggle. So what I decided would probably look better is if the toggle got let's undo that for a sec. Is if everything basically went from the toggle into the actual form itself. We're going to do a section first. And then, yeah, so let's build that real quick and see what that looks like. So basically, I changed the list to a form. That way it's going to give it some default stylings also. And then on top of that, it will also allow for, and then I put the H stacks into a section so it doesn't break it up. And so we'll see how that looks real quick. So you can see here that there's the notify. So you can see that we have the notify right here. Then we have the date last modified, your date added, and your archive. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually update that date last modified whenever notify or archive is done. So completely different thing that I'm planning on doing at some point and have kind of started is I'm basically going to make a Stream Deck clone to where I can just push a button on a different iPad that's connected to my computer and it's gonna like switch screens for me. I think there is a Stream Deck app that I could use as well, but I'm trying to do this a little bit more cheaper. I think the app is a monthly or a yearly subscription, and then so basically what would happen is the iPad sends an OSC command to my laptop, and there's an app called OSCulator, which can take OSC in and then trigger something else to happen on the computer. So that's what I'm planning on doing. But first, let's get through this. Cool. Updating the date. No update dot set value. Cool. So we'll build that. Test here. Now we can see that here, if I toggle that, we get a modified date here, unarchive. Cool. So my modified date is actually updating pretty much in real time, which is great. That's exactly what we wanted. Awesome. Great. So that is done then. That toggle is done itself. So we have completed, just making sure here, the develop a detail. I think that's a pretty good detail as it stands right now. Then we've added the toggle at the same time. I didn't want to get the store in CloudKit. So I think we've and then we haven't solved, so we developed a detail view, we've added the toggle, so I guess actually the order that it goes is like this. And then you aren't even seeing anything that I'm doing. Haha. So what we did was we developed the detail view, we added the toggle, and we've also fixed we haven't fixed issue number 2. Just to show you guys what issue number 2 is. Sorry, I do a lot of weird noises. Is our gradient goes away on the background, which is not the best. So we actually did this in color asset, or I actually did this in color assets. So basically we're just going to update that and keep rebuilding until it's done. So here we go. And then after that's done, we should be done here. Assets.access. All right, so here. Cool. I'm actually going to do a duplicate here. Coding and device. Sorry, I should have actually thought about doing this later. Earlier. And we'll do a display capture. Nope, not display capture. Input, where is it? Video capture device and iPad. Cool. Now y'all can actually see this without me toggling back and forth. And we'll just layer it on top because all I'm doing is adjusting color here. Cool. So really it's just the dark mode that's causing the issue here. So we're going to extend this, and now you can't see color. So cool. Can I do a sorry, one sec. Effects. Can I do a I don't care about this. Okay, we're just gonna keep going and I'll figure that out later. So basically what's happening is the dark appearance does not have a it was all built with opacities, which works great when not dealing with it. So it works great when on a light background to get things through, but on a dark background it doesn't necessarily do that. When you have an opacity with no light behind it, you don't actually see anything. Which I think this just solved. So let me see, because we can kind of see what the gradient's supposed to look like here. I don't really care if y'all see some of this stuff. Yeah, I think that will work. Really, it kind of doesn't though. Let's see. Because we're getting too far, like I can't see any of the outline going down. So let's add a little bit more gray. So we're going to take down the colors a little bit, then bring the opacity back up. Okay, and build again. I have build kind of set to the middle button, so I don't actually have to go and hit the play or the Command R. It's still not doing it right. So I was using color assets to actually avoid doing some things. But I think we'll just call it here. It's definitely better than it was before. So that's good. I just don't know. So I make 100% opacity. Let's build. And let's actually see what the opacity says. What's the gradient? The color is the gradient. gradient, start, mid, end. Oh, well, shit. Oh, sorry. I was trying to keep this as, so this is just gradient color 1. And which way does it go? It goes end. Oh, but it's cut. Why is it? It's a linear from the here to here. Ah, okay. Ha 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 ha. Let's go back here and just undo whatever I just did. All right, and we're almost done. I'm just trying to get this gradient to actually work a bit better. There we go. Okay. Then we'll do... and building it and running it. And after this, I am done. All right, so it's definitely a bit better. It could actually look a bit better. And again, I still need to fix the color of the label itself. But that will be for another day. Stop. Just me. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll hit that commit on GitHub soon. I will also get this video on GitHub soon. I mean, on my YouTube channel as an archive in case you missed the stream. Again, please go either donate to Behind the Scenes, donate to whatever charity you want that you think will help people the most during this. Or check out my Patreon at patreon.com/appsbymw. That way, again, whatever you give this month will also go towards Behind the Scenes to help out those affected by the coronavirus and the quarantine and all the cancellations that have been happening. Thanks, guys. See y'all next week.